This was inevitable. ESPN has released their rankings for each team in their offseason. We'll discuss how the Bengals fared, what their final ranking is, and why they came to this conclusion in this wild offseason that the Bengals have been having. Welcome to the jungle. This is Isaac Coffman with Bengals Digest. So happy to see you, and a big shout out to you, the subscribers. We have just passed 2,000 subscribers. A big thank you. We appreciate each one of you. And if you're watching this video and not already subscribed, you are part of the 76% that are not yet subscribed. So do us a solid. Smash that subscribe where you'll be all up to date on all things Bengals in this exciting season that's coming up for 2025. So ESPN has just given a rankings that they have listed for each team. They've graded them by their moves, by players they have lost, and so on by a letter grade. That brings up the question then, how did ESPN feel about the Bengals? Well, where do you begin with this Bengals offseason? There is a lot that has been happening. Certain headlines have been dominating more than others, but when you look back on this year, there has actually been a lot of things happening. And although there's been some on the negative here recently, again, those types of things such as Trey Hendrickson and Shemar Stewart, there's actually a lot of things that we can get excited about. So we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about all the moves that are noteworthy, that's kind of stick out. But let's get to it. Let's just share what ESPN has given to the Bengals in terms of the letter grade for this off season. They gave them a C+. So the big thing, of course, that's going to be sticking out, they seem to say is a big thing for the Bengals, is getting Jamaar Chase extended. I think that was priority number one for the Bengals. It goes without saying. Number one receiver, won the Triple Crown last year. It would have been a catastrophe if they did not get that done. So that was kind of a relief, actually. I think all Bengals fans just were relieved he had that hold in that he had going on last year. We have the holdouts going on this year. Just imagine what it would have been like if they did not get Jamaar Chase signed this year. And the other thing was they also got T. Higgins re-signed. We'll get more to that as well, but those were kind of the positives that they did bring out. We'll touch on some more positives as well. But the big negative, of course, is Trey Hendrickson. You're talking about the guy that was the actual bright spot on this Bengals defense, one that led the league in sacks. And we've talked about it at length. He is a pressure generator. He wrecks the offense that, it's just, how else do you replace that if he's going to sit out? That's really the problem. The Bengals are not getting this taken care of. We're coming up on training camp. So many question marks with that. So I get the C+ ranking, why they would give that. But let's kind of break down some of the things that were actually a positive. And there was a lot of moves. This isn't every single move, but this is just a few things that kind of stick out in my mind when I look over what the Bengals have accomplished this offseason. So again, going back to Jamaar Chase, you got to make mention that signing him to a 4-year extension, he is now the top paid player that's not a quarterback. $161 million for those 4 years, averaging 40.25 per year. So I'm sure he's very happy. That's the thing that it comes down to is, again, Jamaar Chase had that hold in last year. There was talks of him sitting out like we're seeing with Trey Hendrickson, but that did not get to that point, thankfully. Other big thing was T. Higgins. I think a lot of people were surprised to see that. If you would have asked any fan at the beginning of the year, after they had just franchise tagged him, he wasn't happy. It was looking like last year was going to be his last year. However, it was after the Cowboys game. Burrow said that they were working with trying to get T. Higgins, and he was expecting the front office to take care of it. And that's where the talk began. Well, maybe they'll re-sign T. Higgins. And sure enough, that's what happened. Got to give higher marks to the Bengals, not just bringing Jamaar Chase back, but getting T. Higgins, who arguably could be a number one on nearly most other teams. He's a 1A and a 1B. Jamaar Chase and T. Higgins are. So that's huge. That's big. I think right there, that almost gets you an A ranking if you would take out all the negatives, unfortunately. But that's something you got to highlight. That's pretty much your 1-2 punch right there of this offseason. The other big thing to highlight is they signed TJ Slaton. I think the Bengals defense has suffered tremendously with the departure of Jesse Bates and DJ Reader. TJ Slayton is not going to be a replacement for DJ Reader. However, I could see him being that wrecker on the run game. In the run game, that's where you're going to see him. And you're not going to see him jump out on the stats. You're not going to see him get sacks or a lot of tackles, those types of things. He's just going to be able to clog the middle. That's something that the Bengals need for this defense. And that's only going to benefit everybody else. Just keep an eye on that because you're going to not really see him on the stats, but you're going to see everybody else around him. People like Logan Wilson, Demetrius Knight, who we'll touch on here in just a moment. The starting linebackers are going to benefit tremendously from that, especially in the run game. Another one is they've extended BJ Hill. That's one solid anchor on that line. And BJ Hill's that 3 tech. He's going to do it all for you. He's not going to be this elite guy, but I really like BJ Hill. He's a solid guy, great guy in the locker room. Happy to see that they extended him. An interesting one is Oren Burks. He played on the Eagles. He was kind of that backup on special teams linebacker. And we'll kind of discuss that more of the departures. He's more or less replacing Akeem Davis Gaither. So that's the kind of mold. He's not going to be this standout, but I think it's a great signing. You got to get that depth there, especially with the injuries they've had. Logan Wilson was one of them that had an injury last year. So you got to have depth at all positions, but linebacker especially, I feel like. Another re-signing they had was Mike Gesicki, a big target for Joe Burrow. I mean, you have Jamaar Chase and T. Higgins, but to bring Mike Gesicki back, that was huge. On a 3-year deal, I was happy to see that. They have been kind of doing a revolving door with the tight end position since CJ Uzmanzada. I always butcher names, so I probably said his name wrong, but love the guy. I just was sad to see that they kept going through. Hayden Hurst was another that they replaced for 1 year. They got their guy. Mike Gesicki seems like a guy that's going to be here, going to be able to lead that tight end room. Then you got Al Golden, who is the new defensive coordinator. You have Lou Anarumo that was fired. That's one of the departures that he came in. I see it as a positive. I think it was about time for Lou to go. I have a lot of respect for Lou Anarumo. He was one that really mess with offenses. He had these schemes, but I think what the Bengals need right now is to keep it simple, go back to utilizing the young talent, and that's what I think Al Golden is going to be able to do with this Bengals defense that it desperately needs in terms of improving. Another is Scott Peters, the new offensive line coach. And again, Frank Pollock, respect to him, I just don't think he clicked with the Bengals. I mean, he has had success elsewhere. I don't really think he had that when it came to the Bengals. So the new coaches, you got to remember that's another big addition, a big change over this offseason. And I have to put in there Demetrius Knight as a positive because you have Jermaine Pratt, who was released. So if you look at it, the scheme of things, the Bengals have made a lot of positive moves. They made a lot of good moves to give themselves depth, to make sure they're securing players of their own. Obviously, your Jamaar Chases, but also Mike Gesicki, your BJ Hill, those types of players, they went and retained them. So give credit to Duke Tobin for that. He went out and made a lot of moves this offseason, got guys that they needed to get. But, again, it's going to come down to the issues that still plague this team. There's such a big just emphasis on Trey Hendrickson and Shemar Stewart. That's a big negative that's going to be plaguing this team until it gets resolved. Training camp is coming up. They've obviously got time to work this out. There's been the talks of Hendrickson is now in Cincinnati. He is talking with the front office again. That was a big issue. They weren't talking there since the draft up until around June. That's not good. They just need to work this out. As a fans, you're just kind of on edge and hoping that they just get it worked out and we can again go back to looking at what this team can be. And it's going to just keep hurting this team the longer it goes on. I truly feel like the reason it's become such a big deal is there's so much potential with Joe Burrow, with Jamaar Chase and T. Higgins. They are your core. They have now a 4-year window. So what are you going to do with that window? How are you going to utilize it? Well, having a guy that led the league in sacks on a defense that struggled, That's not helping matters at all. It's really not. And that's the thing. There's talks of if you don't have Trey Hendrickson, you're not making the Super Bowl. That could be the case. Somebody else might step up, though. I mean, if you want to look at the positives, certainly they've got guys that just haven't given enough of an opportunity. They could step up. But that is true. I mean, a guy like Trey Hendrickson, how do you replace a guy like that? And then you have Shemar Stewart. The whole drama going around of, is he going to sit out? Trey Hendrickson has come out and said he's not going to play under that contract. Shemar Stewart is very much a question mark as well. So I get this ranking. I would probably give it that C rating myself just because of how negative of an impact this can be. It remains to be seen. You can't give it a final grade yet. I honestly feel like if tomorrow they come out and they get Hendrickson and Shemar Stewart signed, this could jump. I would give it a B solid rating. This dark cloud, though, is what's really hurting if you want to give them a grade so far in the offseason. I'm sure a lot of people will give it even lower, a D, because of the severity of this. It's just so much of a dark cloud over this offseason. But I still got to give them a lot of credit. Again, Jamaar Chase and T. Higgins was huge, but the players they brought in, it's given a lot of excitement. You know, outside of, again, all the negative, there's a lot of excitement that's going to be going around this team. So stay tuned. Again, training camp is right around the corner. We are going to be able to see what these guys are going to be able to do on the field as we build towards preseason. It's an exciting time because, again, keep your eye on, I would say, TJ Slayton. He's one that you, again, are not going to see him jump out on the stat sheet, but he's a guy I think could be kind of that breakout. Kind of like your Trey Hendrickson. He was picked up in free agency. Mike Hilton, another. Those guys were picked up and became a very big central part of the team. I could see that with Slayton. So keep an eye on him. If in terms of a player, it's too early to say right now, but that is one I would say you want to keep an eye on. He is going to make some big contributions, especially on a defense that needs all the help it can get. And in that run game, it's really going to be crucial. But we want to hear from you guys. What do you think about this grading of the Bengals offseason? How would you personally grade it? Would you give it that C+? Would you give it higher? Would you give it lower? We want to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So comment below. And again, if you have not already, make sure you are subscribed so you'll be up to date. You'll know when all of our new videos have dropped and get up to the latest and greatest of Bengals news. So that's going to do it for now, guys. As we say, Who Dat?